Estou muito curioso para saber qual é o seu problema estreito na forma de HMW ou de ponto de vista que você consolidou tudo o que você está descobrindo até agora sobre o seu potencial cliente. E com isso, nós vamos chegar aqui na terceira etapa do Design Thinking, que é a etapa de ideação. Nesse gráfico, relembrando, você partiu do problema amplo, fez a divergência, entrevistou, fez um mapa de empatia, obteve insights, e aí você convergiu, identificou padrões, dividiu entre tarefas e dores e chegou no seu problema estreito. Agora, finalmente está liberado para você pensar em soluções. A nossa tendência natural é, antes até de começar, já querer bolar o aplicativo que vai mudar o mundo. Calma, passa de forma disciplinada pela fase de empatização, pela fase de definição estreita do problema, para então a gente poder agora liberar e pensar em brainstorming de solução para esse problema estreito que você identificou. Essa etapa de ideação, ela vai ter duas fases. Uma fase também de divergência, em que você cria opções, e uma fase de convergência, em que você faz escolhas. Vamos começar pela fase de divergência, em que você vai criar opções de potenciais soluções para esse problema que você definiu. Para a gente começar, queria que você assistisse a esse TED aqui do Sir Ken Robinson, que, curiosidade, é o TED mais visto da história. Dá uma olhada nesse trechinho aqui que a gente selecionou para você, que fala sobre criatividade.
I believe we've got to go in the exact opposite direction. That's what I mean about changing the paradigm. There was a great study done recently of divergent thinking. Published a couple of years ago. Divergent thinking isn't the same thing as creativity. I define creativity as the process of having original ideas that have value. Divergent thinking isn't a synonym, but it's an essential capacity for creativity. It's the ability to see lots of possible answers to a question, lots of possible ways of interpreting a question, to think what Edward de Bono would probably call laterally, to think not just in linear or convergent ways, to see multiple answers, not one. So, I mean, there are tests for this. I mean, one kind of cod example would be people might be asked to say, how many uses can you think of for a paperclip? One of those routine questions. Most people might come up with 10 or 15. People who are good at this might come up with 200. And they do that by saying, well, could the paperclip be 200 foot tall and be made out of foam rubber? You know, like, does it have to be a paperclip as we know it, Jim? You know. Now, there are tests for this, and they gave them to 1,500 people. This is in a book called Breakpoint and Beyond. And on the protocol of the test, if you scored above a certain level, you'd be considered to be a genius at divergent thinking. Okay? So my question to you is, what percentage of the people tested, of the 1,500, scored at genius level for divergent thinking? Now, you need to know one more thing about them. These were kindergarten children. So what do you think? What percentage at genius level? 80. 80, okay. 98%. Now, the thing about this was it was a longitudinal study. So they retested the same children 5 years later, age of 8 to 10. What do you think? 50? They retested them again 5 years later, ages 13 to 15. You can see a trend here, can't you? Now, this tells an interesting story, because you could have imagined it going the other way, couldn't you? You start off not being very good, but you get better as you get older. But this shows two things. One is we all have this capacity, and two, it mostly deteriorates. Now, a lot of things have happened to these kids as they've grown up. A lot. But one of the most important things that happened to them, I'm convinced, is that by now they've become educated. You know, they've spent 10 years at school being told there's one answer, it's at the back. And don't look. And don't copy, because that's cheating. I mean, outside schools, that's called collaboration, you know, but inside schools. Now, this isn't because teachers want it this way. It's just because it happens that way. It's because it's in the gene pool of education. We have to think differently about human capacity. We have to get over this old conception of academic, non-academic, abstract, theoretical, vocational, and see it for what it is, a myth. Secondly, we have to recognize that most great learning happens in groups, that collaboration is the stuff of growth. If we atomize people and separate them and judge them separately, we form a kind of disjunction between them and their natural learning environment. And thirdly, it's crucially about the culture of our institutions, the habits of the institution and the habitats that they occupy.